So yesterday, Donald Trump, and what we're seeing here, and I think there's people who are completely misinterpreting Donald Trump. The reduction of Donald Trump to like, he's so narcissistic. Do you see like the way he gets on the press? He's just mad that they're not praising him. No. What he's doing is he's setting up a dynamic where when the press ask him stuff about Trump University, when they start asking him very difficult questions, he can ignore them because he has set a narrative that the press is out to get him. And here he's doing more. That's what this is all about. This is a kabuki theater that he is putting on. This is very tactical. This is very strategic. This is the way that he's going to get the press to be irrelevant, at least in his mind. I don't know if it's going to work, but here he is with some vets that I imagine he's paid to come up on stage with him in one form or another. Even though it was reported that he hadn't sent his checks to everybody, now he has, and he's freaking out because people are asking him about it. And frankly, I think this is just called working the refs. And whereas we have known of the concept of working the refs in the past, like where, a basketball player come up to a ref in between, after he blows the whistle and just say like, this guy's shoving me, keep an eye on him. What Donald Trump does is he follows the ref outside of the stadium to where he lives. And then he leaves like a dead cat in his mailbox.
I don't even want to be playing basketball. It's unfair.
So here is him, Donald Trump, at the press conference yesterday.
To follow up on that, you keep calling us the dishonest press, the disgusting press.
Generally speaking, that's 100% true. Go ahead.
I disagree with that, sir. And if I can ask you this question, it seems as though you're resistant to scrutiny, the kind of scrutiny that comes with running for president of the United States.
I
You're
like
saying
scrutiny, but you know what? When I raise money, excuse me, I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty. When I raise money...
Mr. Trump.
No fairness when you talk about not wanting to get credit for this. You did host a very public fundraiser that was televised.
How else am I going to raise the money?
Sorry?
How else am I going to raise the money?
What I'm asking, I guess, is when you did this fundraiser, it was televised, you were doing,
Sure.
Instead of doing the debate, it received wide attention. Some people say that it may have helped your campaign.
I would have given this, just so you understand, until I was criticized. So I'm the only one in the world could raise almost $6 million for the veterans, have uniform applause by the veterans groups, and end up being criticized by the press.
Night of that Iowa fundraiser, you said you had raised $6 million. Clearly you had not. Your critics say you tend to exaggerate, you have a problem with the truth. Is this a prime example?
No, I raised almost $6 million. Some of it didn't come through, but more money is coming through than didn't come through. Close to 6.
But what you're doing is you're answering the questions now that we had back then. It was just a question.
Right, so
is
look,
a question an
here's
attack?
the story.
Is a question an
I
attack?
think, and I've been dealing with the press a long time, I think the political press is among the most dishonest people that I've ever met. I have to tell you that, okay? Of course, you're excluded, Carl. But I think the political press...
Wait a few minutes.
I think the political press... I see the story. Many more people than they had. So instead of saying Trump made a speech in front of a packed crowd, they said Trump was disappointed here, and they could have made... I didn't want to do that. I'm not looking for credit. But what I don't want is when I raise millions of dollars... have people say, like this sleazy guy right over here from ABC. He's a sleaze in my book. You're a sleaze because you know the facts, and you know the facts well. Go ahead.
And all right, so what you're seeing there is him, creating a dynamic with the press that is adversarial, so that when they ask any of these other questions, it's really easy to say, this is an unfair question. Look, we already know we hate each other. So you're not a fair arbiter. Now, the interesting thing to watch, folks, is going to be how the press reacts to this. And because this is a dynamic that we don't see very often. I mean, you heard the stories of like John McCain, the way that he would get good press coverage. Like everybody would come over for barbecue. Everybody had, these famous barbecues with John McCain. Playing touch football and then you hear stories like, I don't know, Chuck Todd writing, like, I went over to the famous Biden barbecue. Everybody's got a barbecue. Just one of the guys. And but Donald Trump is taking a different tack, which is, I'm going to take one of you outside. I'm going to beat you up, send you back in, so that the rest of your friends can see your bloody pulp body. Now, of course, I'm not talking I'm talking metaphorically, because Donald Trump, there's no indication that he would ever want to get physical with anybody, because I think he's a little bit afraid.
And he's marginalized Corey Lewandowski in the campaign.
Yeah, and his hands are so small.
You can't throw an effective punch with those hands.
No, you
I mean,
can't.
there's just basic anatomical problems there.
Although it's a very good jabbing, like a stick to the eye. So his hands are so small. But aside from that, no, but I mean, he would never get into a tussle because he'd be afraid that somebody would hurt his weave. I mean, we've seen video of that. I mean, honestly, that's like my glasses times like 30. Okay.
That's why Andre Agassi lost the French Open in '92.
Because he was
afraid of running would dislodge his hair situation.
So,
but he wrote a great book about it, and
yeah.
you feel for him. Trump will never do that.
Now look, so here's the question. Will the press respond to this by saying, like, we're going to get more aggressive? And I actually think this is one of those few occasions where we may see that, because there's no, I mean, you heard that exchange with Carl, what's-his-face from Fox, the longtime Fox correspondent. Even he does not want to be seen now as being easy on Trump. And I think at one point the media's got to make a decision. They're going to keep hammering Trump. And the question is A, does this act resonate with anybody beyond the people who are already interested in Trump? And I think probably not. And then B, when Trump stops answering questions, and so far he's given the press more access probably than Clinton, I would say. When he stops answering questions, will they also stop giving him so much coverage? My guess is no. So it's probably a smart move by Trump in the final analysis, which is, I'm going to make everything seem, I'm going to nuke everything. And that way, there's no difference between them talking about whether or not I gave donations to vets, or whether or not we committed fraud with Trump University, or whether or not I had mob affiliations, or whether or not my dad had to co-sign every deal I did for the first 15, 20 years, or whether or not he gave me an illegal loan by buying chips at my casino, on and on and on. This guy, it's not, I mean, there are times where I think he can't help himself, but I think there's also times where he's very calculated about what he's doing. And to say this is just about a guy who's narcissistic, no. I think there's a real agenda here. He knows how to play the villain to the press. And what it does is it basically inoculates him for any charges in the press. Because now the whole media is hostile to him. It's the same way where, Sarah Palin could say, like, well, that story was in the New York Times. And of course, it's the New York Times. And so nobody believes the New York Times that are their supporters. Now we can say that about the entire press.
There's a method to his dickishness, and people get lost in, this or that thing.
I don't know if there's a... Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.